Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to look at this little interesting book. It's called The Shortest Day, Celebrating the Winter Solstice. It is by Wendy, I mispronounced this name, Pfeffer, and illustrated by Jesse Reisch. Now this is an interesting little book. It's very introductory into the basic science of the seasons and celebrations of the winter solstice, primarily focusing obviously on the Northern Hemisphere. So this is winter this way. I'd love to do a book on this opposite direction for the Australians. But it's an interesting little book. It has some decent illustrations. It talks about different cultures and how they celebrated the winter solstice and how they understood it. So it first talks about, fall is coming, what the animals are doing, and then what children are doing in the modern world, and then in the snow. Again, Northern Hemisphere where it snows. Obviously not everywhere in the Northern Hemisphere where it snows. Where I live, no. It's gotten cold, but it's not snowing where I'm at. So, but again, it's very much focusing on the large part of, in this case, being as this is English in an American book, on most of the continental United States and Canada, where, snow. So then it kind of slips in and starts talking about different cultures and how they didn't really understand what was going on with the science. So they thought that the sun was being chased away for some reason. So it talks basically kind of about what was going on with the daylight and how they needed it. And then it goes into time. So it talks about 5,000 years ago, different astronomers in, of course, again, we're talking northern hemisphere here. And it looks like we have pictures of what appears to be the Mayans or the Aztecs, I'm not sure which. Again, this book is very, very generalized. So it's very simplistic and extremely generalized, definitely geared toward the preschool, early elementary age. So it's very much an introduction. So talk about the building of temples to celebrate the solstices, both summer and winter. And then it talks about China and how they noticed it and what they did. And that's over 3,000 years ago. And then it talks about the Romans about 2,000 years ago. I do not know how accurate this is. Again, it's a simplification. It's really, really generalized and very much an introduction. So, and then of course it talks about the Europeans and what little we know about the actual Druids. Again, it's very simplified and generalized. It talks about St. Lucia Day, which is in Sweden. And then it talks about the Incas in Peru and how they celebrated it, because again, they're close enough to the Northern Hemisphere. Yes, the Peru's in the Northern Hemisphere, at least most of it. And then we talk about what happens today, where we still celebrate. Does not mention Christmas specifically. It mentions celebrations. So this is a very secular book. So it doesn't mention Christmas. It just mentions the giving of gifts as the sun goes down, and we understand what's going on. And then we now understand kind of the history here. And then it goes into the solstice facts, and it talks about the turning of the sun and the different seasons. And so it talks about the science stuff. And the very back, what's interesting about this book and why it's particularly good for homeschoolers, it has little projects in the back here. So make a winter sunrise, sunset chart. So you can determine what time the sun is setting and sun is rising each day. Now, these days we have apps that tell us. And then it also has the measuring of the shadows on the shortest day. So something you can do in winter. And then note the difference between around March, the solstices and the equinoxes, and measuring your shadows. So definitely a homeschool thing if you're doing year-round stuff. And then it talks about just kind of different things, measuring, doing a compass, find the sun's northernmost and southernmost points during different times of the year. So it has little projects here. And then this one using a light bulb showing the tilt of the earth and how it makes the season. So you can kind of do that with a light bulb and a little ball of sorts on a stick. So, and then it has making cupcakes. So it has a, doesn't have a recipe, but yeah, just, I'm guessing it's using a box mix, and it's using a candy corn. Well, that's slightly gross. My father-in-law likes candy corn. But, and then making things for birds for the winter solstice, because there's still some birds wandering around, I think. I've never lived in snowy weather. Well, I did, just not in the U.S. I have a cat in my lap. So this is and then of course it has, looks like it has further reading, though I'm sure these are out of date. Now one of them's not actually too bad. This isn't too old a book. It has websites, which I have no idea are relevant, but the has a couple different books. One's from 94, one's from 85, another one from 84, and then we have something from 2000. So it's a variety of different books. I don't know if any of those are print. But this is a very simplified, generalized look at the changing of the season and what happens during the winter solstice and some of the past celebrations and explanations that they had throughout the world in the Northern Hemisphere. Again, it's very, very simplified. So this is definitely leaning toward preschool, early elementary. So probably 4th, maybe 5th grade would be pushing it for this book. You need to get into more detail with this. It's a decent jumping off point. And there's some interesting those little projects in the back, particularly if you're, as is most homeschooling parents, and you're doing year-round stuff, or even if you're not, and you just want to do some understanding of these seasons. So, and yes, this thing is still relevant, probably even in my own state when there's no snow, because we are still in the Northern Hemisphere. We're not that close to the equator, and it's still cold. So yes, the days are shorter. It's just not, there's a far more of a pronounced difference the more north you get. And I think it mentions that at the end of the book. It's like, if you're in somewhere like Alaska, there is literally on the winter solstice, there's no sunlight whatsoever, as long as you're, I think it says within like 400 miles of the Arctic Circle or something. Literally, let me see what it does. It says something at the very end here. I can get the book to respond. Let's see. Where does it say? I believe it says it here. Winter. Yeah. Every place within 400 miles of the North Pole has 24 hours of darkness on the winter solstice. So, and it has 24 hours of light on the summer solstice. So, Alaska and, the barely inhabited areas of Canada and various parts of, not necessarily Europe. Kind of. You'd have to go further north. More like the Scandinavian countries. That far north. And no, the UK is not that far north. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Romania, which is, if you're looking at a globe, it's at level with Quebec, Canada. So north, yes, not that far north, and the winters aren't quite as horrible as you might think. At least not where I was at. I never got snow on Christmas. Got snow in January a little bit. No snow on Christmas, really. At least not where I was at. So it's a very simplified, good book, but again, very, very simplified, definitely geared toward the much younger, like I said, 4th grade might be pushing it. So, mostly the younger kids. So, however, it is still a good book. It's a good book to start off learning about what happens in the winter solstice, even if you do not live in the snow. And it has those little activities in the back that you can use. It talks about the general idea of cultures and what they did. It's a great jumping off point. I mean, if you want to talk about what different cultures, St. Lucia Day, and some of the temples and things, you'll find both in the Mexico and the Central American countries, even in parts of South America, and Europe, and even parts of Northern Africa, where they were experiencing this shift in weather and change, even without the snow. So that is the end of this review. If you like what you see, be sure to check out the rest of the channel. I do children's books like this, along with various other fictional picture books. I do some older kids stuff. I do various video reviews. All of them obviously are not focused on religion, so I try to avoid the religion. We are a secular homeschooling family, so religion I stay away from. So otherwise, let's see, what else do? I try to do educational stuff here and here. As my child gets older, we will definitely be doing more curriculum-based stuff, board game stuff, travel stuff, as we're able to do that. Hopefully by the time you guys see this in December of 2022, as opposed to me filming this in January of 2022, we'll have more travel videos up. We are hoping to get moving, but again, as the timing is set, we are still dealing with COVID, so things are kind of shut down, things are not all that safe, so we're really not traveling all that much. So be sure to like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have one, and thank you.